Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys for joining me for this breaking news edition of the Commanders Report, where Washington is signing two-time Super Bowl champion and former Defensive Player of the Year, edge rusher Von Miller. They have finally made their move at edge rusher after kind of months of speculation whether or not they were going to trade for Trey Hendrickson, whether they were going to sign a free agent, whether they're going to trade for a different edge rusher. We talked about Cam Jordan on the show today as a possibility, and I said on today's show that I would have rather gone to free agency and got Von Miller instead. So I'm very excited about this move, guys. I'm going to be breaking down my reasons why I think this is a really good move by Adam Peters, the Commanders GM, and why I think Von Miller is going to do a good job replacing Dante Fowler Jr. as the designated pass rusher along the edge here in Washington. But before we get into the nitty-gritty here and we go into a little bit more of a in-depth look at Von Miller and what he brings to this team, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because whenever there's breaking news, my promise to you guys is that we are getting you breaking news coverage, whether I'm here at home and breaking news happens past 10 o'clock on the East Coast, or whether I'm in the office and news breaks. We're going to get you guys a video. We'll definitely get some more Von Miller coverage for you guys in studio tomorrow, but just wanted to give you guys my instant reaction. All right, so I believe it was Von Miller announced it himself on his Instagram, which was then picked up by Tom Pelissero, Adam Schefter, and all the top reporters around the National Football League. Adam Schefter does say that it is going to be a one-year deal, and right now the two sides are currently, quote-unquote, finalizing terms. But I can't imagine this is going to be too expensive for the Washington Commanders. Von Miller is 36 years old now. Last year, he wasn't a full-time starter for the Buffalo Bills. He was a rotational pass rusher, which is what his role with the Washington Commanders is going to be here. We'll talk about that later in today's show. But last year, 6 sacks, had a PFF grade of over 85, so he was still very effective in that rotational pass rusher role. Also had 7 TFLs in 13 games played. He did not play in every single game last year for the Buffalo Bills, but he was a pretty darn effective player for them, even at his age. And of course, in his past, he pretty much willed that Denver Broncos team in Peyton Manning's final year to a Super Bowl championship. That was one of the rare years where a defense was so dominant that the quarterback in Peyton Manning wasn't really playing all that well in that playoffs, but they were still able to win a Super Bowl on the back of that defense, which of course was led by Von Miller, who was a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate at that point in his career. And of course, he balled out in the Super Bowl that year as well. He also went to the Los Angeles Rams in 2021 when they won their Super Bowl there, and he was a big part of their pass rush down the stretch alongside Aaron Donald. He was not a Defensive Player of the Year candidate type of player at that point in his career, but he was still a very effective player. And now the Washington Commanders get their designated pass rusher, in various similar roles. What I'm expecting for Von Miller is what we got out of Dante Fowler Jr. last year. Dante really had a good season, 10.5 sacks that this team needed to replace once he ended up going back to the Dallas Cowboys. And really, I didn't really think that this edge rusher group really had a whole lot of one-on-one pass rushing prowess. You have Dorance Armstrong and Cleveland Ferrell, two kind of bigger body, run defending type of edge rushers. This team has also talked about using Javon Kinlaw as kind of a giant edge rusher at times, but he's going to be more of a stunt type of weapon. You also have Jacob Martin and Dietrich Wise, two other players that you're bringing in free agency that are going to be playing on the edge as well. But all 4 of those edge rushers just really aren't, guys that you go up and you say, all right, you got a one-on-one matchup against a tackle, go and win one-on-one without any stunt help. But Von Miller is absolutely that type of guy, which is why I've been saying for months now, I would love to add a guy like Von Miller, somebody with a bunch of playoff experience, Super Bowl experience. This guy is not going to be afraid of that big stage. When the Washington Commanders hopefully can get back to that really big playoff stage this year, when they're playing in divisional playoff games, when they're playing hopefully in an NFC Championship game this year, hopefully playing in a Super Bowl, Von Miller is going to be able to get you some big-time pass rushing reps on pass-heavy downs, whether it's second and long, whether it's third and medium, whether it's third and long. you're probably going to have Dorance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Cleveland Ferrell, those bigger body, run stuffing type of physical type of edge rushers on early downs. But then once things need to be cranked up, that's when Dan Quinn is going to unleash Von Miller and Frankie Luvu, for that matter, who had 8 sacks in this defense last year as well, is one of the best blitzing off-ball linebackers in the National Football League. So I do think that Von Miller is going to be playing that same role that he played in Buffalo last year, where he's going to be that rotational pass rusher that's going to be coming in on those heavy passing downs, and he's going to be kind of their main guy to attack opposing quarterbacks. And they're going to be setting up a lot of different stuff with the stunts and loops that they like to run here in Washington for Von Miller specifically. He doesn't have the same explosiveness as he once had as, formerly the best speed rusher in the National Football League, but he can still get after quarterbacks. He showed last year that he's more than capable of being that type of player for the Bills defense, which of course did a pretty darn good job. Ended up going to the AFC Championship game yet again last year. And now Von Miller, who's 36 years old, he's probably ring chasing at this point, not looking for a big contract, just wants an opportunity to win football games. He's going to have an opportunity to do that in this Washington Commanders defense, which just got, in my opinion, a lot better because they just added a major piece that they were missing. I will also say, guys, that, the addition of Von Miller probably is the Commanders waving the white flag on adding Trey Hendrickson. I think that the Commanders were really kind of waiting this thing out, seeing if the situation with the Bengals and Hendrickson was going to devolve to a point where they end up trading him. But with the addition of Von Miller, I would probably say a trade for Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, the other edge rushers that are out there on the trade market probably won't happen at this point. Von Miller is obviously a big name that commands a lot of respect in that regard, and I think that he is signing this contract with the knowledge from the team that is telling him, we are planning on having you be our designated pass rusher this year. So I think it's a big-time element that this team is adding to their defense, and when you look at this defense as a whole, there's no questioning that this defense is so much better from a personnel standpoint than it was just last season. I mean, they had arguably the worst cornerback room in the entire league last year. Mike Sainristil is really this team's saving grace in that room with Manuel Forbes and Benjamin St-Juste and Michael Davis and Noah Igbenogany. Just really not getting the job done, to be frank. And then, you bring back your 2 off-ball linebackers this year, which had a good year last year, and Frankie Luvu and Bobby Wagner. And then you bring in guys like Javon Kinlaw, and you bring in Jazon Newton's going into his second year as well. Bring in a run stuffer like Eddie Goldman. You still have Daron Payne here, who's had an awesome offseason program, according to the people in the building there in Washington. And you look at this defense, and just from top to bottom, it is a better unit than it was last year. I also really love the defensive scheme here with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., especially what they do up front with the pass rush. And I think they're going to do a lot of fun stuff on these passing downs with Von Miller and setting things up for him, using Javon Kinlaw as kind of a stunt weapon for Von Miller to loop around. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what the Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr. Scheme up for Von Miller. And then, of course, in those true pass rushing one-on-one situations where you don't have stunts, you just tell your number one edge rusher to go out on the edge and win. Von Miller is still more than capable of doing that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really good move, guys. I'm going to have more kind of insightful, more in-depth stuff. I'm going to be doing some research tonight and really get you guys some high-quality Von Miller content tomorrow in studio with our normal studio graphics on the Commanders reports. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. This has been my instant reaction to Von Miller signing a 1-year deal with the Washington Commanders. The Commanders have their edge rusher and their designated pass rusher to replace Dante Fowler Jr. I'm really excited about this signing, guys. I can't wait to talk about it more tomorrow. So click that subscribe button if you want our premium content tomorrow.